yeah.
You can win.
Oh, heck yeah.
So exam 2 practice problems. Right? I just posted those today. So here's the plain version, which means that it's a blank one that you can fill out.
Ooh.
You should do that, though, to practice for the exam.
I will.
And then here's the PDF version, right, with the solutions. Okay?
You just need it after you do the first one.
Yeah. Well, and I'm sort of going to give it away because we're going to go through them here in class, but you should repeat, right? So clearly what I did is I took an old exam, and this person did a great job. Okay? Yeah. Well, they're not hard, and again, you've got 3 hours to get through it. So, and I say they're not hard. You have to have that familiarity with having done a few of the problems, probably going back and practicing some of those, the chapter 4 and 5 ones in particular. Okay? So Shelby Standard is a full-service gas station. Upon arrival, a customer pulls up to the pumps and is greeted by the full-service attendant. The attendant checks with the customer regarding what grade of fuel the customer will be purchasing and asks the customer to release the hood lever. The attendant then begins pumping the gas. While the gas is pumping, the attendant checks the air pressure in all the tires, washes the windshield, and checks the oil. I have to tell you, I told you my husband had the 30 cars, right? He helped me write this problem. Can you tell?
Yeah.
And so after the gas has stopped pumping, the attendant removes the nozzle and closes the gas cap. In the final step, the attendant collects the money from the customer and thanks the customer for their business. Greeting the customer, verifying the type of fuel, and asking the customer to release the hood takes 45 seconds. Beginning the pumping through filling the tank takes 240 seconds. Checking the air pressure in all 4 tires takes 90 seconds. Washing the windshield takes 120 seconds. Checking the oil takes 60. Removing the nozzle and closing the gas cap takes 30. Collecting the money from the customer and thanking them takes 180 seconds. What's the theoretical flow time? So first off, you have to draw the process. And so you've got kind of what's going on in terms of you've got greeting and verifying, okay? And then you can split it off into the tanks being filled and you're checking the air pressure. So on the top row, you've got what's going on with the gas, and on the bottom row, you've got what's going on with the checking the air pressure, washing the windshield, and checking the oil, okay? All right. And so then you have to say, well, what's the theoretical flow time? Well, you're adding up the times and you're picking the longest path, right? So that's when you talk theoretical flow time. It's pretty straightforward. Adding up the times and picking the longest path, okay? So then I do a diagram because I don't want the rest of your problem to be based on whether or not you drew your diagram right or not. So I give you a diagram and then I say, what's the theoretical flow time of this process? So again, I'm going to add up across these 2 paths, whichever one is the longest. So I'm going to look here and I'm going to go, clearly this is the longest, 90, 90, 15, and 10. Okay, so that's 205 seconds. Okay, what's the capacity of the process per minute? Okay, so capacity of the process per minute is going to be based on your bottleneck, right? You can't do anything faster than what your bottleneck can do. So your bottleneck is going to be identified by your longest cycle time. So I've got 60, 90, 15, 10, 90, 90. So it's going to be 90 seconds is going to be my longest cycle time. Okay, so that's 1.5 minutes. So the capacity of the process is 1 unit for every 1.5 minutes, or 0.66 units per minute. Okay, so half of what you're going to have to do is get yourself comfortable with understanding that when we talk about the capacity of the process per minute is units per minute, and just answering the question in units per minute. Okay? So if we add another person on the stash line, reducing the 90-second cycle time at the lower glass station to 45, what's the theoretical flow time? It's still 205 because that's not on the critical path. Okay? So if we add on the sash line, so this is the sash line. That's not going to change because this is our critical path. Okay? If I were to add someone down here, that's going to reduce our theoretical flow time because it is on the critical path. So that's what that one is about. I I have fun when I write these problems, just so you know. My niece is Shelby and my nephew is Tyler, so that's why we have these names that pop up. So Tyler Manufacturing specializes in 2 types of production. The typical work involved in each product type is quite predictable and repetitive. The time requirements leads for preparing each type of product are shown in the table below. Also listed are the number of resources of each type and the number of hours each day the resource is available. One of the things that I've done differently this year is I've gone ahead and put these tables out in Excel. So if you want to work these problems in Excel rather than handwriting them, you can. Okay? If you'd rather handwrite them, I don't have a huge issue with that. I think it's more professional if you do it in Excel, and that would be my preference. I think that is where we need to be in terms of where we're at, but I'm not going to require it. All right? So for the month of February 2013, 200 orders, 100 of each type were generated. Assume 1 month equals 20 days. So what's the effective capacity of the process? All right. We have to calculate an artificial unit load. Do you remember how we get the artificial unit load? We have the unit load of product A and the unit load of product B.
You should add them, don't you?
You take the average, in this case, because they're 50-50. So in the problem it says that we have 100 of each type. So it's 50% of product A and 50% of product B. So I'm just going to take the average. If, by chance, it was 60% of product A and 40% of product B, you take 60% times 6, 40% times 8, and that becomes the unit load that you'd use for fabricators. 60% times 3, 40% times 1. That becomes the unit load you use for assemblers. Okay? All right. So our artificial unit load then, so this person has just recognized that and done it without showing the math. Okay? So it's 7, 2, and 1 is our artificial unit load. So the effective capacity of a resource unit, and if you don't mind, I think I might have these solved in Excel. Let me go take a quick peek because it might be easier to show you the formulas in there. I have lost my PDF. There it is. I don't think that that's it. It isn't. Okay. I think this is it. 6888. Yeah, so this is the problem. All right, so I've gone ahead. So you can see how I would have set it up is I would have put in a column and added in so I could calculate that artificial unit load, right? And said it's going to be the average of these two. Okay, so there's our artificial unit load. The effective capacity of a resource unit, when you set the problem up this way, remember we did those columns are always the same, and that's the inverse of that. So it's 1 over 7, 1 over 2, and 1 over 1. So that's the effective capacity of a resource unit. Okay, so just remember when we talk about unit load, we're talking about product A is hours per order, and effective capacity is orders per hour. We're just flipping those around, okay? So that's why it's just the inverse, okay? We're given in the problem that we have 8 fabricators, 2 assemblers, and 2 managers available. We're given that they're available 8 hours per day, 7 hours per day, and 6 hours per day. So the effective capacity of that resource pool is going to be the effective capacity unit orders per hour times how many resources we have times how many hours they're available, okay? And so that's going to tell us that we have 9.14 orders per hour for that resource pool, 7 for assemblers, and 12 for managers. If I'm interested in for that month, if there's 20 days per month, I multiply that out, saying that my fabricators can do 183 orders roughly, my assemblers can do 140, and my managers can do 240. So where's my bottleneck at?
Assemblers?
Yes, because they're the ones that can't do the most, right? They do the least at 140 orders per month, okay? So A says, what's the effective capacity of the process? We're going to calculate the artificial unit load, use that artificial unit load to calculate the effective capacity, use the effective capacity of a resource unit to calculate the effective capacity of that resource load, determine the capacity of the process based off the bottleneck resource, okay? Can the company process all 200 orders? Have I lost y'all?
This would be no.
That would be no, because they can only do 140 per month, right? If the firm wishes to process all 200 orders per month, employees per month, how do they do it? How do we say how many they need? We say that we have to identify the hours needed for each resource type, identify the hours of each resource type available for one resource per time period, and then divide those total hours needed for each resource type by the total hours available. So that being said, we've identified that it takes 7 hours of fabricators, 2 of assemblers, 1 of managers. If I'm going to do 200 orders, that means that I need 1,400 hours of fabricators, 400 hours of assemblers, 200 of managers. They are available, fabricators for 8 hours per day, assemblers for 7, managers for 6. There are 20 days in a month. So in order to determine, I'm going to take 8 hours per day times 20. That's going to tell me hours available for one resource unit. So if I have 1 fabricator, they're going to be available for 160 hours in a month. So in order to determine how many fabricators, I need 1,400 total fabrication hours, divide them by 160 hours that 1 fabricator could do, and that tells me that I need 8.75 fabricators.
So in that case, do you get 9?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, or you get creative and somebody does something else for a fourth of the day, kind of a thing. In a manufacturing environment, if you have the flexibility, you do that. But it sort of goes to Alex's point about, you're trying to keep people busy, and are they doing what you need them to do? Mm-hmm. So, if they're creating inventory that you don't need, then maybe not. Okay? I tell you, that's probably the toughest concept for managing a manufacturing plant. You're not thinking that way, because those production line managers are based on efficiency, and so they're always wanting to produce. That's what they're measured on. So sometimes you have to look, like in Alex's case, what are the measures that you're managing people on? Okay, so the last part of this problem says, what type of the product mix is most profitable, and show how you determine this. So again, you need to show your work, because you could probably guess and have a 50% shot at being right, and that's not going to really tell me much. Okay, so for product A, we're going to say that we're going to look at this and we're going to say, so we have to break them down again into, instead of doing the average unit load, now we have to look at each individual product. Okay, so for product A, the unit load is 6 for fabricators, 3 for assemblers, and 1 for managers. Again, how do I get my effective capacity? What is it? 1 over. It's the inverse of my unit load, so 1 over 6, 1 over 3, and 1 over 1. I have 8, 2, and 2 available. Again, this is just like what we did up above, right? So that's the thing. If you get into the habit of doing these kind of in the same way, you're going to get comfortable with that math, okay? And then the effective capacity of that resource unit in a day. Okay, we take the effective capacity for that resource unit times the hours available times the days available. Okay? And we end up then knowing that we have 213 orders per month, 93 for assemblers, and 240 for managers. Okay? So the question is then, the assemblers are still the bottleneck here, right? So that is the effective capacity for that product A. Okay? And then for product B, we run through the same thing. Do you want me to walk through the math for that, or you think you've got it? Good. Harley's good. Brady's good.
I think once I go over it again, and it'll be.
Okay, you guys are good. Okay, so then we determine what our bottleneck is, and if we're going to look at that for the day. And one of the things I think in this problem, I forgot to indicate that it was $6,000 profit for product A and $4,000 for product B. And so if we can do 4.7 of A, it's 4.667 times 6,000, that's $28,000. But if I can do 8 of product B at 4,000, that's 32,000. So basically then B is the more profitable of the two. And you wouldn't think that by just looking at their prices, right? You would think that A would be more valuable. But because of the time that it takes, that is not the case. Okay? E, at the current product mix, what is the value of hiring an extra assembler each month? Okay, so basically, if I'm doing this in Excel, I come back up here and I say, I'm just going to copy and paste from here, right down to here, and I'm going to add in an extra assembler, make that 3 per day. That changes from up here. They could do 7 orders in a day. Now they can do 10.5 orders in a day. So what that does is it changes our effective capacity from 7 to 10.5, so an increase of 3.5 of our artificial unit load. So we're going to take our artificial contribution margin, so that's the twist on this one. You have to go, well, it's 4,000 and 6,000, average of that because they're evenly distributed is 5,000, and if we multiply that by 3.5, it's $17,500 per day or $350,000 per month if we add another assembler. So probably worth our while to do that, right?
Yeah, most definitely.
Okay. Whew. All right. So that was 4, right? And that was it. So that's what you can look forward to. I don't have a bunch on there. There is another capacity waste factor problem on your exam. I didn't have it on this one, but there is one. So go back and review a capacity waste factor problem. They're not hard, but just take a look at one of those. Okay? All right, but that's kind of the review that I've got for you for chapters 4 and 5. Again, I don't think we're doing anything overly complex. I think it's an opportunity for you to kind of regurgitate your knowledge, and then the true test is when we go to apply it to your project. Are you able to transition what we're doing here to your project? Okay? What questions do you have for me? Not a 1. It's because I'm such an awesome teacher that I have completely clarified everything.
Everything.
Can you just give us all C's and we call it a day?
Call it a semester.
Call it a semester.
How
about you, pizza?
Yeah.
How about your family?
I have high expectations for you. I do. I'm not looking for C's from any of you.
I mean, you can give it an E or an A.
Yeah,
I mean, as
B
long
is
as it's just
fine.
an
Yeah.
F, I really don't care. I mean, it could be a D, C, B, A.
It's my last semester.
Yeah.
I'm having.
Are you having some senioritis?
This is it's my last semester, and my average working per hour per week has
gone up.
and so it's.
All I have to
been
do this semester
crazy.
is not make an F in my classes.
Well,
I have confidence that you can do that.
I have a higher expectation than that, but
I have higher expectations for all of you anyway.
I just have to not make an F. I'll be content with B.
Again, higher expectations.
now my thing is I'd like to have all A's and then a B or 2. This class is the one I've allocated a B to.
You have.
I have definitely allocated a B to this class.
Yes.
See, I think that's a mistake. I think that if
Have you seen our group project?
have you seen that are you understanding that you
I
have you-
perfected that.
I spent a long
are you
time.
understanding that you revise and then your
Yeah.
grade changes? So I think that's the piece that you're missing. I don't think you've heard me when
I
I've
know,
been.
I heard you. I'm just.
No,
I
actually, I do
really
strive for
lazy
all
and-
A's in all my classes, but there's classes that you get in a class and
day
I
one.
can tell within a day or two this is gonna be and I always have this is gonna be an A or this is gonna be a B, and then classes that I know are gonna be harder and would require a lot more effort to get an A in, sometimes I'll write them off as a B because I work and have a lot of other stuff going on that a B's not the end of the world.
Right.
I like
I don't think it's the end of the world, but so here's where I come from. It's important to me that you get it on the project.
Oh, yes, of course.
And so that's my thing is I'll be willing to work with you on the project so you get it until the point that you do, or, then if there's a point when you're like, look, this is just going to be good enough. But the problem that I've got with that is we've kind of made a commitment to the Business Express people. We were taking up their time, and so I want to make sure that we complete it.
I wouldn't give not a B effort on the project.
Right.
Just a B effort, not an A effort, just a B effort.
Like, it's nothing I wouldn't give. Like, on my project, I'm going to do pretty well, but I don't stress. Like, if at the end of the day I made a B in this class, I would be like, oh my goodness, I tried so hard to get an A and I didn't. I'd be like, well, that's okay.
Well, and truthfully, I've been there too. I can remember I had a professor in the MBA. I did my first assignment for him was a deal where I had to answer questions, and I had to your point. I think the boys had something going on, and just being a mom and some other things going on, I'm like, I know this is not my best effort, but you know what? I'll have more opportunities to do this.
Yes.
So he gave me a B on it, which I was okay because it was, again, a B effort. But then the next one I did an A effort, and I got a B. On the next one I did an A effort, and I got a B.
And then you're like, well, if I'd have done B effort the whole time and got B's, I'd feel a lot better about it.
Well, so then I went in to talk to him, and I'm like, I'm not really understanding what I need to do to get an A because I really feel like I've upped my game. Mm-hmm. And he's like, okay, well, and so then after that I got the A's because I was putting in the A effort.
All you do is tell him.
Well,
on my next
listen,
test,
I'm applying an A effort
on my next
in
test,
class.
forget everything I just said. On my next test, I spent all 3 hours.
Well, and so, but then what I find ironic is later on, I'm now no longer his student, and what he tells me is that he uses that first assignment as kind of a baseline, and then he doesn't necessarily spend as much time detail grading everything.
I've had teachers say that.
And I'm like, really?
Yep.
See, my take is if I asked you to do it, it's my responsibility to read it.
I had a high school professor who said, if you can wow me with your thesis statement, and he actually had a one in high school. We're 16 years old, and it was full of huge, $5 words. And it was a page long. He said, if you can write this thesis on your thesis, I won't even read the rest of your paper, and I'll probably give you an A.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. And there's only one kid in the class who ever took the time to actually write it, memorize it, and he actually turned out to be the valedictorian, so whatever. he would have got an A anyways. But he's like, if you have a good opening paragraph, he's like, I probably won't even read the rest of your paper.
We're going to go over your project. So
I know, I'm
just
just putting my jacket on.
Okay. The other thing, my dad was telling me back when he was in high school, he was writing a long paper. And so I went to a very small town. And so I had the same teacher as my mom and my dad did for English. And so you can imagine, because my folks were, what were they, 17 and 18 when they got married, 19 and 20 when they had kids, so by the time I go through, this guy's been teaching for 20, 25 years, and he would always call me by my mom's name because I look like my mom. But anyway, my dad said when he had him for his English class, he wrote about 3/4 of the way through the paper, if you read this and call me on it, I'll buy you an ice cream cone for reading my paper through to this point. And he never called him on it, so he never had to buy the guy the ice cream.
That's funny. If you're really reading this now,
Yeah.
that's how I feel like. I did a 20-something page paper for my classes. The teacher doesn't read it.
No.
There's no way. You don't have time to read 20. Or I say you don't have time. I wouldn't expect the teacher to read it because you read the first paragraph, you look for you skim and look for highlighted words.
Yeah, I actually read them.
Really?
Yeah. If I'm assigning it, it's because I think it's important, and if I am not going to take the time to read it, then I feel like I shouldn't assign it.
Yeah.
Because then I'm not going to give you the feedback that you deserve for the effort that I am expecting you to put in. So.
I would appreciate it.
Yeah.
I don't think any other teachers do that, so I appreciate it.
Well, no, I think there are some that do,
Yeah.
but you're right. I know that not always, and it depends a little bit on what the purpose of the assignment might be too. I don't spend a ton of time reading over your discussion questions for the goal that you answer, but I do read through them. And I'm one of the assignments at the end of the semester that I think I hope you'll see some changes. I want you to go back through and read your answers and then talk about how maybe you have learned and changed some of your perceptions. Because early on, what we thought about inventory, throughput, and flow time is very different than what we probably think towards the end of the semester, would be my guess. And I can see that in some of your answers. But that's why I'm not counting them wrong, because it's a learning process, right? You're thinking through and hopefully
Same as the
internalizing.
test.
No.
It's a learning process.
Sorry, no. That's an assessment of your knowledge at that
You
point.
gotta give him credit for that. That was good.
It was. All right, so we take a look at your project, and then Harley, I think if you want to stay and listen, you're welcome to, but I think
But I don't blame you.
I think
no.
really we're just gonna get in trouble.
they're not going to get in trouble. I know, I'm so mean. Harley went through it with me. I was pretty mean, wasn't I, Harley?
You
Yeah.
seem like a mean person.
That's why he's leaving. He's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, he's like, nope, I'm
he
out.
said, I've heard this
See ya.
lecture before, I'm gone.
Corey, I don't know that you need to stay. Like I said, I think Harley's working on Harley and what's this other guy's?
Joseph or Joey?
I don't know if you saw
Joey?
it,
Yeah.
but I remade the.
I'm hoping he's listening to
process.
lectures.
Uh-huh.
So Joey, how should I do that? Joey, if you're listening to the lecture, I'll buy you an ice cream cone. Is that what?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So if you actually watch this after,
That's right. That's right.
Did that. And then. Copied that.
Yes, so I'm just going to meet with the team members that are here in class. And then I met with Harley earlier, so he might have some feedback to share with you later on about your project. But he had some revisions to do before it was ready to go forward. But I think he can probably, in the next day or two, probably have those knocked out.
It's kind of going from the example one that she had on.
oh yeah, the whole value. I got you.
Okay?
Oh, and there was one.
You're welcome. Bye, Corey.
Kid.
Corey and baby Corey.
Yeah, Corey and baby Corey.
There's something. I think you put on here is like the side with
Oh,
like
it's
the
probably
behind,
behind counter or not
Yeah,
behind
we-
counter.
Yeah, and we
Yeah.
talked about it. It should have been.
You talking about like the
Pick
cups, like the soup, or what are they got
Yeah,
back there?
soups
The
and
soup
donuts.
And the bagels.
Yeah, and
that
the
are not
bagels.
good.
And the coffee.
Yeah, the donuts that are about 5 years old.
I got bagels one time, and then I went and got especially cream cheese, and I grabbed it, and then it turned out to be like cream cheese.
With tomato and basil in
With-
it.
I've had that happen too.
It was nasty.
I hate that.
It was like tomatoes and like
Brady
little,
was really
it was
mad.
like little peppers and stuff. And I was like, this. I just wasted like $3.50 on hating myself. This is terrible.
I had that same thing happen.
Yeah.
That would be a good
Like
thing
it wants
to-
to be really filled up with cream cheese, not whatever this stuff is.
Oh, and then that's in a bad place too. The cream cheese and the little condiments
Yeah.
kind of thing, like the cold
Mhm.
ones. It's like, I don't know where it's at. It seems like it's in the drink
Yeah.
frozen thing.
Yeah.
I'll sound stupid, but it took me, I still don't know. Like their microwave there is really hard to operate. It's not like my microwave at home, so therefore I don't know how to work it.
I've never used it.
It's
It
complicated.
seems isn't
It can't be
isn't
that
the numbers like 1, 2 like
Like you, it's
And
like,
then, like-
you don't push like cook time and type in, or it doesn't seem that simple. Like I remember I sat
You
there
just
one
type
day.
in the time?
No,
like you press a button and then just
like it kind
it
of zone
starts.
time or something.
Oh,
yeah.
it's express time. Oh,
Yeah,
I bet
yeah.
they've pre-programmed times in it.
I don't know. One day I sat there and I was
I-
like, I can't get this thing to cook my stuff. I'm sitting there. You open the door. No.
I wish I'd seen that.
I was like, I felt a little stupid. So since then,
I
I
did it-
have not ordered anything that you cook, which I don't get a lot of stuff at Business Express.
Yeah, I've never had anything you cook out of it.
I got me like some type of chicken.
The pasta
Sandwich
things look
thing?
decent.
Yeah, it's not bad. No, it was one of those like microwavable pizza things. It was pretty good.
Mm.
I think it's like some flatbread chicken pizza thing.
No.
I was happy with it. But no, I mean, most of my days I'm gone out after at a lunch, and so I eat when I get home.
Yeah.
I've been laughing. I can go some days and I'm just not hungry,
Yes.
and then other days I am starving. Today was a day I was just starving.
I'm not hungry unless I tell myself our brain we're going to try to cut back on the reading to lose a little weight. And then all of a sudden I'm just
Maybe that's
it's
the
just
deal.
food.
I decided that over the weekend. It was time to.
So, of your husband's 30 plus cars, did he have an SUV that he just absolutely adored and he
No,
thought
he-
that a
yeah, he
college
never
kid
had
should buy?
SUV. No, you don't buy classic SUVs.
Well,
No, but
he
I
had
didn't know if he
some
had,
cool
like,
newer cars too. He had like a
regular.
Chevy Blazer
Okay,
that was custom painted.
that's cool.
Yeah.
What
But-
did your husband do before you guys got married?
Well, we actually met. He was managing the transportation company in Denver when I moved out there. And so we worked together for about a month, and he was leaving. He'd opened his own business, Master Tech Auto, and he'd opened it with two of his brothers and his mother. And 2 years into it, his mother passed away. 3 years into it, one of his brothers passed away. 4 years into it, his other brother had a triple bypass.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so
Rough
it was,
life.
and it wasn't, the business didn't cause any of that. They were just not in good health really
Yeah.
to begin with. And
Is
so,
your husband okay?
Yeah, he is, but it's it's diabetes, and so they were all diabetic. And
Is he diabetic?
Yes, he is, but he's very he's fit and he doesn't smoke and he
Does he do shots or pills?
pills. So he maintains really well. So yeah, we've gone in. He goes in regularly for just the check it out kind of a thing. The first time he did it when he was 30, they were like, well, we're not really sure why you're here. He's like, well.
Yeah, yes it is.
And they were like, yeah, that's probably a good idea. So, but yeah. But so he had, he was, all of his brothers were always, he's from a family of 8 with 6 brothers, 2 sisters.
God,
And so they were all into cars and, that kind of stuff. Yeah, it was fun.
On a different note, if you
Oh, I could
apply
stop.
for life insurance,
No, I'm not going
they
to stop
have to
the
do a
recording.
blood test.
Really?
Yeah. Just so you know, I don't do needles.
Wow.
It's hard to get that blood test without the needles, though.
I
Yeah,
hear they actually can't get one.
I tried.
Oh, I'm not really afraid of needles.
This was last week. I cried.
Wow.
It was last week.
I'm not really afraid of needles.
Hard go negotiator.
So like when I get shots, I'm fine if I just kind of
Nope, I
go
cried
like
when I
this.
got shot.
But when I first hurt my knee, I had to go in and they had to.
They
They literally had a
Suck
needle
the
this
fluid out?
long,
I've been
stuck
there.
it in the side of my